My name is Maya, and I'm 32. For the past 6 years, my life has been a high-wire act, performed without a net. By day, I'm a senior software engineer in Seattle, a job that demands a level of precision and logic that I find, honestly, pretty comforting. By night, and on weekends, and in every spare moment of my consciousness, I'm the responsible one. I'm the financial and emotional lifeguard for my family back in Ohio. My life is a tidy, color-coded spreadsheet of goals and savings. My biggest goal, the one I've been grinding for since my first paycheck, is what I call the escape fund. It's a dedicated savings account, and I'm just a few $1,000s shy of my $60,000 goal, enough for a 20% down payment on a small, quiet condo of my own, a place where no one can call me with a new emergency. The emergency always has a name, Chloe. Chloe is my younger sister. She's 28, beautiful, charming, and according to my parents, as fragile as a spun sugar bird. Ever since college, Chloe has been suffering from a, quote, mysterious chronic illness. It's a vague, shifting constellation of symptoms: chronic fatigue, multiple chemical sensitivities, debilitating migraines, fibromyalgia. It's always something that's conveniently impossible to disprove. Because of this mysterious, tragic ailment, Chloe can't work. She can't handle stress. She can't live a normal life. What she can do, apparently, is require an endless, ever-expanding list of expensive, non-traditional treatments. Our family dynamic was carved in stone decades ago. I was the strong one. This was just a family code word for the one we can burden. Chloe was the fragile one. This was code for the one who gets to drain all our resources, no questions asked. Our parents, Brenda and Frank, are the high priests of her victimhood. My mom, Brenda, is the chief enabler, a woman who lives in a state of constant, manufactured anxiety, her entire personality wrapped up in being the caregiver to her sick daughter. My dad, Frank, just goes along with it, his standard response to any conflict, a weary sigh and a muttered, "Whatever your mother thinks is best." It's been 6 years of this. 6 years since I got the frantic call that Chloe had collapsed and was fading away. She had a panic attack after being fired from her second job. 6 years of me, the dutiful, guilt-ridden daughter, sending a non-negotiable $1,500 every single month to my parents' joint account. This money, I was told, was for Chloe's medical needs. It was for the special, organic-only hand-delivered by Monk's food she required. It was for the specialized, non-insurance-covered acupuncture, the naturopathic consultations, the high-end air purifiers for her bedroom. It was, I was assured, the literal lifeline keeping my sister from wasting away. This lifeline meant that my own life was stuck in park. While my colleagues were buying houses and traveling the world, I was living in a cramped, 600-square-foot rental, driving a 10-year-old car, and skipping every vacation. My escape fund grew at a snail's pace, constantly depleted by my monthly family tax and the inevitable emergencies that popped up like clockwork. "Maya, honey," my mom would call, her voice trembling. "Chloe had a reaction. The specialist needs to see her, and it's $800 just for the consultation." And I, like a fool, would Venmo the money, my stomach churning with guilt and resentment. I was sacrificing my now for her never-ending needs. I never saw her, Chloe, that is. She was too sensitive to travel. She couldn't handle the stress of a phone call. My entire relationship with her was through my mother, a series of tragic, third-hand updates. "She's having a good day, but she's very weak. She's so sad, Maya. She just wants to be normal like you." They were experts at playing my heartstrings, and I was a fool for letting them. I was pouring my life, my money, my future into a black hole, all in the name of family. The crisis that finally pushed me over the edge came on a Tuesday. I had just hit my $60,000 savings goal. $60,000. I had literally cried at my desk, looking at the number. My dream, my condo, my life, was finally within reach. I was already scrolling through real estate listings when my phone rang, flashing times MOM with its familiar, dreadful urgency. She was hysterical. Not her usual "I'm so worried" performance. This was a new level. This was a full-blown gasping for air panic attack. "It's Chloe, Maya. She had a relapse. A terrible one. She's just given up. She said she can't do it anymore," she wailed. "She's just lying in her room, in the dark, and she won't eat. The doctor's here. They don't know what to do." My blood ran cold. This was the call I had been dreading for 6 years. What can I do, Mom? Should I fly home? No, that's not. "Honey, we found something," she said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial, hopeful whisper. "There's a clinic, a specialized wellness center, in Arizona. The Solstice Canyon Retreat. It's experimental, holistic. They work with complex, chronic cases, just like Chloe's. They're getting miraculous results, Maya. But it's her last hope. I knew what was coming. How much? My mother's sob was perfectly timed. It's so much, honey. It's an intensive, 3-month, inpatient program. They have to have the full payment up front. It's $60,000. $60,000. The exact, precise number sitting in my escape fund. It couldn't be a coincidence. But how could they know? I'd never told them the exact amount. Mom, I said, my voice shaking. That's my entire savings. My down payment. I can't. You can't? Her voice cracked, turning instantly from hope to a new, terrifying shade of despair. You're choosing a condo over your sister's life? Maya, this is her last chance. She is dying. I am begging you, as your mother, please. What is a house? What is money compared to your sister? The emotional blackmail was a physical force, a crushing weight on my chest. A house. Or my sister's life. Was that even a choice? I was being asked to choose between my future and her survival. My dad got on the phone, his first time ever intervening in one of these calls. His voice was heavy, broken. We're desperate, Maya. I've never asked you for anything. But I'm asking you now, please, baby. Save your sister. We'll pay you back, someday. I promise. That was it. My father's plea. That was the final nail in the coffin of my dream. I started to cry. Quiet. Defeated. Tears. Okay, I whispered. Okay, Dad. I'll do it. Send me the information for the clinic. That night, my hands trembling so hard I could barely type, I logged into my bank account. I watched the number that represented a decade of my life, a decade of sacrifice and grinding, drop from $60,000 to zero. I wired my entire future to the Solstice Canyon retreat. I felt a profound sense of loss, but also a strange, dark relief. At least, I told myself, the endless demands would finally be over. At least I had done the right thing. At least, I had saved her. The weeks that followed were bleak. My life in Seattle felt gray, hollowed out. I was back at square one, my dream gone. I went to work, I came home, I ate takeout, and I tried not to think about the yawning, $60,000 crater in my life. The only comfort was the updates from my mom. Chloe was thriving at the clinic. It's a miracle, Maya, she gushed. Her energy is coming back. The doctors are so optimistic. You did this, honey. You saved her. I held on to that. My sacrifice, as devastating as it was, had been worth it. I had bought my sister's life. About a month after I sent the money, my company had its big annual tech conference in San Francisco. It was a mandatory 3-day event. I hated these things. A lot of forced networking and stale coffee. But my boss insisted I go. On the last night, my team and I went out for a group dinner at a fancy, loud restaurant in a hotel downtown. I was miserable, nursing a seltzer water, just wanting to go back to my room. Hey, I'm stepping out for some air, I mumbled to my manager, slipping away from the table. I walked out of the restaurant and into the hotel's main lobby bar, a cavernous, dimly lit space thrumming with music and people. I was just heading for the exit when I saw her. She was across the room, at the bar, laughing. Her back was to me, but I knew that laugh. I would know it anywhere. She was wearing a stunning, backless red dress, her blonde hair piled on her head. She was tanned, vibrant, and looked incredible. She was holding a martini glass in one hand and gesticulating wildly with the other, telling a story to a handsome guy who was hanging on her every word. It couldn't be. It was impossible. Chloe was in a holistic clinic in Arizona. She was weak. She was recovering. But the woman turned, just slightly, to flag down the bartender, and the light caught her face. It was her. It was Chloe. My brain simply broke. I couldn't process the data. This was not the frail, sick girl from my mother's stories. This woman was glowing. She was the picture of health and vitality, laughing and drinking in a high-end bar, hundreds of miles from the miracle clinic she was supposedly checked into. I moved without thinking, my legs carrying me across the crowded room as if in a trance. The closer I got, the more the impossible became undeniable. It was her laugh, her hair, the small, specific mole on her shoulder blade. It was Chloe. Chloe? I said. My voice came out as a strange, choked croak. The woman in the red dress froze. The laughter died on her lips. She turned around, her eyes wide, the martini glass trembling in her hand. For a split second, her face was a mask of pure, unadulterated panic. She looked like she had seen a ghost. Maya? She whispered, her voice a fraction of its usual bubbly charm. What are you doing here? What am doing here? I asked, my voice starting to shake, the adrenaline and confusion making me dizzy. What are you doing here? The clinic. Arizona. You're sick. She stammered, her eyes darting to her date, then back to me. It's not what it looks like. I was discharged early. This is a celebration. Discharged? Mom didn't say anything. A celebration? You look healthy, vibrant, alive. Chloe, who's this? The man beside her asked, looking annoyed at the interruption. She's just. Chloe was unraveling, her eyes wide with a terror I didn't understand. I have to go. I'm feeling sick again. I need to go. Sick? You seemed fine a second ago, the man said, frowning. I need to go, she snapped. She slammed her glass on the bar, grabbed her purse, and, without another look at me, she turned and ran. Not walked. Ran, pushing her way through the crowd and disappearing out the hotel's revolving doors. I stood there, frozen, in the middle of the loud, buzzing bar. The man she'd been with just stared at me. What the hell was that about? He grumbled. I couldn't answer. My mind was catching up to my eyes. The girl who was supposedly on her deathbed, the girl I had just bankrupted myself to save, was not only healthy, she was in San Francisco, in a cocktail dress, on a date, and she had just ran away from me. It wasn't a relapse. It wasn't a miracle cure. It was a lie. It was all a lie. I don't remember the flight back to Seattle. I was on autopilot, my mind a blank, roaring static. The image of Chloe's panicked face, the flash of her red dress as she fled, it just kept replaying. Back in my apartment, I didn't sleep. I just sat on my couch, staring at the wall, as the pieces of my life, my family, my entire belief system shattered around me. The next morning, I did the only thing I knew how to do. I analyzed the data. I started with the Solstice Canyon Retreat in Arizona. I found the website. It was beautiful, glossy, full of testimonials and pictures of serene desert landscapes. It looked legit, but as a data analyst, I know how to look deeper. I did a domain registration search. The website had been created 6 months ago. The registration was private, hidden. I did a reverse image search on their facility photos. They were stock images. One was from a spa in Bali, another from a hotel in Scottsdale. The address listed on their Contact Us page, I put it into Google Maps. It was a UPS store in a strip mall in Phoenix. The $60,000 I had sent my entire future had been wired to a P.O. box. The rage, when it hit, was so cold and so pure it was almost calming. The grief vanished, replaced by a surgical, icy resolve. I wasn't just a fool. I had been the victim of a long, elaborate, and deeply cruel con. I didn't call my parents. I didn't call Chloe. I called a private investigator. I found the best, most expensive, most ruthless PI in Seattle. A woman named Janine, who specialized in financial fraud. I need you to find my sister, I told her, my voice devoid of emotion. And I need you to find out where my money went. All of it. I gave Janine everything. My last $5,000 on a credit card as a retainer. Chloe's name, her photo, her known associates, my parents' names, the fake clinic's website, the bank records from the wire transfer. Janine's report, delivered to my inbox 1 week later, was an 80-page atom bomb. Chloe was not in Arizona. She was not sick. She had been living in a luxury apartment in Marina del Rey, Los Angeles, for 4 years. The mysterious chronic illness was a lie. A story she and my parents had concocted when she dropped out of her real college, having flunked out due to poor attendance. Janine's report was meticulous. It contained Chloe's real Instagram account, a private one under a fake name, full of pictures of her at Coachella, on yachts, at exclusive LA clubs. Pictures of her looking tanned, healthy, and vibrant. Pictures of her wearing designer handbags and shoes, all posted on the same days my mother had called me, crying, saying Chloe was too weak to get out of bed. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the money trail. The $50,000 I had wired to the clinic, Janine had traced it. The P.O. box was linked to an LLC, Solstice Canyon Holdings, which was, in turn, linked to a bank account. The owner of that account? My brother, Leo. My sensitive brother, who was supposedly finding himself in Portland. He was in on it. He was the one who had built the fake website and laundered the money. But the final devastating, soul-crushing blow was the analysis of my monthly $1,500 help payments. For 6 years, that money had gone into my parents' joint account. And Janine had gotten the statements for that account. The money wasn't just for Chloe's needs. The statements showed that every month, on the day after my transfer hit, a $1,000 auto payment was made from that account into my parents' private investment portfolio, STAS. They hadn't just been enabling the lie. They had been profiting from it. My $1,500 a month sacrifice, the money I'd been sending to help my family, to save my sister, had been split. $500 went to Chloe to fund her fake sick girl lifestyle in LA, and $1,000 went directly into my parents' retirement fund. A fund that, according to Janine's report, was now worth well over $300,000. I had been funding their early retirement. I had been paying for my own gaslighting. My father's fragile heart, my mother's anxiety, my sister's illness. It was all a sick, twisted, long-running scam. And I was the mark. I looked at the total. The $50,000 for the clinic. The $90,000 in monthly support payments over 6 years. Countless emergencies. That added up to at least another $20,000. They had stolen over $160,000 from me. I sat there, in my small, empty rental, the PI's report glowing on my laptop screen. I wasn't just heartbroken. I wasn't just angry. I was changed. The soft, dutiful, guilt-ridden part of me had been surgically scooped out, leaving behind nothing but cold, hard resolve. I was a data analyst. My job was to find the flaw in the system. And this system, my size family system, was corrupt beyond repair. It was time to run a new diagnostic. It was time to call in their debt. I didn't call them. I waited. I let them swim in their own filth for a week, imagining their panic as my calls went unanswered, their texts unread. I needed them to feel that first, cold prickle of fear. Then, just as I was getting ready to make my next move, my mom called, her voice a symphony of fake, high-pitched panic. "Maya, oh thank God. We've been so worried. We got the strangest call. From the clinic. They said Chloe had a psychotic break and left against medical advice. They said she was in San Francisco. We're terrified. Have you heard from her?" The lie was so audacious, so crazy, it was almost impressive. They were already building the new narrative. Crazy Chloe had run off, and they were the worried victims. "That's awful, Mom," I said, my voice dripping with a fake sympathy that matched her own. That's just terrible. In fact, I think I need to come home. We need to be together as a family, to figure this out." "Oh yes, baby, please," she cried, the relief in her voice palpable. "We need you. We need to figure out how to find her. I'll be on the first flight tomorrow," I said. "We'll have a big family meeting. Just us. We'll make a plan." I hung up and made one call. To Aunt Linda, my grandmother's executor, the keeper of the family trust. "Linda," I said, "I need you at Mom and Dad's house tomorrow at 3 p.m. I'm calling in the cavalry." When I arrived at my parents' house, the scene was set. My mom and dad were at the kitchen table, their faces arranged in masks of tragic concern. Leo, the visionary, was there too, looking worried. And, I noted, wearing a new, very expensive-looking watch. "Oh, Maya," my mom said, rushing to hug me. I didn't hug back. "Sit down," I said. "We need to talk." They sat, their eyes full of rehearsed anxiety, ready to launch into their Find Chloe act. "Before we start," I said, "I've invited one other person. She should be here The doorbell rang. I opened it. Aunt Linda stood there, her face like stone, holding her briefcase. My father's face went white. "Linda," my mother stammered. What a surprise." "Brenda, Frank, Leo," Linda said, her voice like ice, walking into the room and placing her briefcase on the table with a heavy, final thud. "We're not here to talk about Chloe's psychotic break." She opened the briefcase and pulled out a stack of papers. "We're here to talk about this." She slid the first document across the table. It was the bank statement from my parents' secret investment portfolio, showing the $1,000 monthly deposits. "And this," she said, sliding another paper, "a printout of Chloe's secret, glamorous LA Instagram feed. And this, a copy of the bank transfer for $50,000 to the Solstice Canyon Retreat, a shell corporation registered in Leo's name. And finally," she said, "this, a copy of my grandmother's will, open to the clause. The nuptial fraud clause. The one that stipulated that any beneficiary who knowingly and willfully conspires to defraud another family member forfeits their entire inheritance." My mother looked like she had been struck by lightning. My father was making a strange, gulping sound. Leo just stared, his mouth open. The house," my dad whispered, his eyes on the will. My grandmother, it turned out, hadn't just put Sherm's trust in place. She had put my parents' house in a trust too. They lived in it, but they didn't own it. It was part of her estate, to be passed to her grandchildren, me, Chloe, and Leo, upon their deaths. Their right to live there was contingent on their good behavior as trustees, and they had just been caught committing fraud. "You've been stealing from my daughter for 6 years," Aunt Linda said, her voice dangerously quiet. "You preyed on her love, her sense of duty. You faked an illness. You created a shell corporation. You didn't just break her trust. You committed multiple, prosecutable felonies. Wire fraud, conspiracy, identity theft. And in doing so, you have violated the terms of my mother's will. As executor, I am informing you that I am beginning legal proceedings to have you all disinherited." "No," my mother shrieked, a raw, animal sound. "You can't. It was just, we were trying to asterisk help. Chloe." "This," I said to my aunt, "is where we negotiate. I didn't want them in jail. I didn't want a public scandal. I just wanted my money, and I wanted them out of my life. I made them an offer, through Linda. They would sign a legally binding confession of everything they had done. They would agree to a sale of the house. The house would be sold, and from the proceeds, I would be paid back in full. The $50,000, the $90,000 in monthly payments, and the $20,000 in emergencies. A total of $160,000, plus my legal fees. Whatever was left, and there wouldn't be much, they could keep. And Linda would not pursue the full forfeiture or press criminal charges. But they would be disinherited from any future Times family assets. And I would be gone from their lives forever. They signed. They had no choice. It's been a year. I got my money back. I bought my condo, a beautiful sun-filled place in Portland, with a small balcony for my plants. My firm, sensing my new, unburdened focus, promoted me. I'm leading the West Coast data integrity team now. My parents sold the house and moved into a small, bleak rental apartment. The family has completely fractured. My aunts and uncles, horrified by the truth, have disowned them. My dad works as a part-time accountant at a tiny firm. My mom, I've heard, is a receptionist at a dental office. Chloe and Leo, the golden children, are both working minimum wage jobs. Their safety net, my bank account, my parents' house, is gone. They are, for the first time in their lives, on their own. I don't speak to any of them. I block their numbers, their emails, their social media. The silence is the most peaceful sound I have ever known. I didn't just get my money back. I got my part-time lifetime back. They thought my love was a resource they could just drain. They forgot that even the most responsible, dutiful person has a breaking point. And when you push a data analyst into a corner, she doesn't just get mad. She gets evidence. And she builds a spreadsheet that will tear your whole world down.